running in Dublin Bay North are Paul Clark, non-party, Donna Cooney, Green Party, Jimmy Gearan, non-party, Deirdre Heaney, Fianna Fáil, John Lyons, Anti-Austerity Alliance People Before Profit, Denise Mitchell, Sinn Féin, Michael O'Brien, Anti-Austerity Alliance People Before Profit, Cian O'Callaghan, Social Democrats, Damien O'Neill, non-party, Prunchias O'Connor, non-party, Averil Power, non-party, and Stephanie Regan, Fine Gael. So here we are in Dublin Bay North. That is, Dublin North East and Dublin North Central are no more as constituency, and Dublin Bay North is the bolted together Frankenstituency, stretching from the Hill of Howth to Clontarf geographically and from the Hill of Howth to Darndale economically. 3 Labour TDs owed their election to those 2 constituencies, but there's only one standing now in the new constituency. That's the high-profile Junior Minister Eoin O'Riordan. He's here. Tommy Bruin was Labour Party but parted company when he wouldn't vote for the bank guarantee. He's here running as an independent, which he could take tips on from Finian McGrath, who's done it 3 times and brokered a deal with Bertie Ahern to prop up the 2007 government. Not that McGrath is going to be giving out any helping hands, because there may only be one independent seat to be won here. Those 2 men are here with me, as is the Haughey man, the Haughey name needing no introduction in North Dublin, but Sean Haughey needs to reintroduce himself to voters who waved him goodbye in the Fianna Fáil rout of 2011. Fine Gael's Richard Bruton topped the poll last time out, but the local party machine snubbed him in favour of former Lord Mayor Naoise O'Murray, and Bruton had to be parachuted onto the ticket by party HQ. Naoise O'Murray is here. Bruton is out canvassing. I wonder would he be bothering asking for second preferences for his running mate. On the basis of the numbers, Sinn Féin should be very much in contention for 1 seat, but have they shot themselves in the foot by running 2 candidates? One of the candidates, Micheál McDonagh, is here. And Terence Flanagan coasted into the Dáil in 2011 on the back of an historic swing to Fine Gael. He parted company with the party over abortion legislation and now stands as a Renua candidate. First off, I don't know how many of you managed to hear Barry Lenihan's report from Darndale earlier on. Eoin O'Riordan, I think that you did. 37% reduction in the resources for the very people who are trying to keep the young people of Dublin Bay North out of the grips of the drug dealers. If you, as Drugs Minister, can't get drugs policy right in your own constituency, what does it say about the rest of the country?
Well, I fundamentally disagree with you, because anybody who knows Darndale well, as I do myself, would know the Preparing for Life scheme there was running out of funding because Atlantic Philanthropies were putting out, and because my own personal intervention in June with others, other projects like Preparing for Life around the country, such as Young Ballymun and CDI in Tallaght, and in fact 10 other such projects around the country have gotten centralised funding to keep it on the go. So I managed to get €3 million for the Preparing for Life programme, and they're quite happy to have gotten that funding, and they're making serious inroads in terms of oral language skills, in terms of dietary preparation, in terms of literacy for the various...
Tommy Bruin, is your former party colleague getting it right?
No, he's getting it very wrong, unfortunately. Over the 5 years of this government, we have had very serious cuts all across community programmes in this constituency. I myself have served as the founder and chairperson of Coolock Development Council, and a lot of the projects that would be based in our campus just up the road here beside us on Bunratty Drive, a lot of those projects have been struggling because this government relentlessly cut and cut and cut. We finally saw a tiny bit of light in the budget for 2016 when they could do no other because they had to face the people. But really, it's been a shocking story, I think, of cutbacks all across the community services, not to mention health, not to mention absolutely nothing being done in terms of social housing. So it's a disastrous record that Éoin is trying to defend.
Naoise O'Murray, Fine Gael, it must make your job very, very hard going and introducing yourself to people on the doorsteps.
No, I think Tommy's hit the nail on the head there. This year, for the first time, there's a little bit of light back in there. There's a little bit more resources available. The economy has recovered, and part of the job now is to keep that going. And I think those resources are starting to come back into the system. Yeah, no, it's not easy at times to be door knocking and to hear those stories, but I think people are accepting that there's a bit of a recovery coming, and we just have to spread it around a bit more now.
Terence Flanagan, Renua, you people are making something or staking out ground for yourself in the area of law and order. What though would you do for the people that we were talking to earlier on in Darndale?
Well, firstly, Philip, to say I didn't hear that actual report. I'm no stranger to Darndale. I've been down there, canvassed, met the people on numerous occasions. Our new policy is a 3 strikes rule policy, which effectively would mean for serious criminals that they will be put behind bars. We've a lot of people, obviously, behind in prison at the moment that shouldn't be there for less serious.
What's your policy for the people with small drug debts who have fallen into the hands of the criminals and just can't extricate themselves?
Yeah, well, we want to make the moneylender put him out of business. We want to ensure that there's support there and loans basically for families to help them through credit unions in particular to ensure that happens, so that they're not paying extortionate interest rates, which they are at the moment, 157% APR in some instances. Like, we need to get rid of moneylenders out of these areas, and particularly Darndale.
Sean Haughey, Fianna Fáil. Darndale didn't fare very much better under Fianna Fáil government, did it?
Well, actually, I disagree with you there. I know Darndale very well, and Darndale is a very good community, and a lot of work has been done down through the years. The initial design of Darndale was disastrous, and earlier Fianna Fáil governments put a lot of money into refurbishing the estate and getting the physical infrastructure right. So it's actually a very nice place to live from a physical point of view and an architectural point of view. But, you know, there certainly is work needs to be done. Community services have been cut back substantially. There is a great community there. There are people doing tremendous work, but they do need support. There's also a law and order issue as well. You started off talking about the drugs, and obviously the demand for drugs is an issue, but also the supply as well. There's been huge cutbacks in Garda resources, and I heard your programme earlier on, and they mentioned that. The community leaders said the Gardaí just do not have the resources to deal with the situation. We're proposing to recruit 2,000 extra Gardaí. They're needed on the ground. Most of those will go to Dublin and to communities that need it. So I think that, you know, there's a supply issue and a demand issue, and certainly the Gardaí need more resources to deal with the problem too.
Finian McGrath, was Darndale always as nice a place to live during Fianna Fáil's time as Sean Haughey suggests?
No, we've always had problems in many parts of the constituency, not one particular area. We have many communities that have been left behind. Even today, we'll say, for example, there are hundreds of people at the moment going into Brother Kevin for hot meals and also for takeaway meals as well to bring home to their families and children. So there's 2 Irelands at the moment. Taoiseach early on talked about the progress of the people. 30% of the people have done very well over the last number of years, but 70% of the people are suffering, whether it's high unemployment, massive poverty. But we also have crisis up the road in Beaumont Hospital, where, as I speak today, people are lying in trolleys. We have problems with cystic fibrosis services for people with disability. These are all the real issues that people feel in Dublin Bay North. So what I'm saying is I welcome the fact that we have a recovery. We need a strong, sustainable recovery. But the problem is with this government is the way they're distributing the resources to the most needy in society. We have to have priorities. People with disabilities, people with cystic fibrosis, and people on trolleys, they are my priorities.
Right. You're moving all the issues in there, but let's just keep it to drugs for the moment. Micheál McDonagh, what would you do differently that none of these parties have suggested?
Well, I mean, to go back to the original question in terms of community resources and the cuts to community projects in Darndale and other communities throughout Dublin Bay North. Only yesterday I was speaking to community workers in Kilbarrack St Benedict's Resource Centre, where they're doing tremendous work with youth. You have after-school clubs, you have a youth project. All of those projects there, Darndale, Coolock, all over the constituency, are working on a shoestring. They don't know what money they're going to have from year to year. They don't know how many other people they're going to employ. The undermining of community development programmes, the CE schemes, have all been undermined by this government and the previous government. The communities in Darndale, Kilbarrack, Coolock, all over the constituency, people are doing tremendous work against great odds. That is not being matched by government support.
All right. Now, let's move on to a national issue. You will all say that you are standing on your own platforms or on the platforms of your party, but you're not actually. You're standing on what is ultimately going to be the programme for government, so whoever it is that you coalesce with. And that, at this point in this election campaign, could not be less clear. Let's talk to you first, Sean Haughey of Fianna Fáil. There's obviously a good deal of pragmatism in your background when it comes to coalitions. Who would you rule out and rule in?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that this government is very unpopular. You know, that people want a change of government. Okay, if Fine Gael are 20-something% in the polls, the rest of the people want a change.
I didn't ask you to take a dig at them. I asked you, who would you go into government with Fine Gael?
The Fianna Fáil position is that we will not go into coalition with Fine Gael or with Sinn Féin. That is our strong position. We're putting forward our policies. We're trying to get a mandate from a policy-driven agenda agenda.
You are, but you know the speech. In fact, you were probably at the table in Concealy when it was being drafted about how the people have spoken and now it is up to us to follow the wish of the people and form a stable government.
Well, I think you said it there. The people have to speak. There hasn't been a vote cast yet, so we need to see what the people are saying. People, by and large, with a few exceptions, since the history of the state, get the government that they want. So let's see how the people vote and what government they want. But certainly that's our position. We will not go into coalition with Fine Gael. They're a deeply right-wing party. They rule for their own people. They're expecting a coronation, and really they're going to get a landing because they obviously haven't been out on the doorsteps. They're a deeply unpopular government. Labour in particular, people feel that they have let them down. I wouldn't like to be a Labour Party canvasser at this point in time.
Nisha Murray, do you think that Sean Haughey will be eating his words and that they will be calling you in Fine Gael?
This idea that we haven't been on the doorsteps is rubbish. We've been on the doorsteps every day for the last God knows how long, canvassing for this. We're getting a good response as well. And
that's not the question I asked you. If Fianna Fáil come calling, will you pick up the phone?
No,
if it was you?
We are very clear. We are seeking for the government to be re-elected. That's the Fine Gael and our partners, Labour in government. That's what we are putting to the people. That's our pitch to the people, and it's up to them.
You're going to end up having to talk to Tommy Bruin or to Finian McGrath. First off, Finian McGrath, why would any government come and talk to you? You welched on the last deal that you signed up to with Bertie Ahern.
Absolutely not. I had certain...
You pulled out in 2009.
And why did I pull out? Because there were certain issues on senior citizens, cuts to health services.
You pulled out?
Disabilities, yes. And I had a red line that I would not let them cross. I won't let any political party push me around because I was elected on a strong health and disability...
What's your red line now? What's your red line here?
My red line would be issues like, for example...
No, one. I'm giving you one. One thing that is going to... the price of your support
is a strong, fair, fully funded health service. That would be my direct, immediate priority.
For Dublin Bay North or for the country?
For a national, properly funded health service. And of course, in this particular area, proper funding. We have a proposal on the table for 45 million from Beaumont Hospital to deal with the issue of A&Es and get the beds in there and get the crisis over. That would be a priority issue for me. But so would services for people with cystic fibrosis and people with disabilities. And I think it's very important.
Just in terms of that 45 million plan, it was myself. I don't do the business of pointing at problems. I find solutions. I went in and met the senior management of Beaumont Hospital twice. I brought them to meet Brendan Howland. Sorry, Tommy. Sorry.
Just for the record, Ian and myself and a number of other representatives met the senior management before Ian O'Riordan.
Okay. Sorry. You didn't let me finish, Tommy. Sorry.
I'm now walking away from the whole lot of you. And now I'm going to step back. No, once you've stopped, I'm going to step back in. Aon O'Riordan.
And we met with Brendan Howland when they outlined their plan for a capital investment for the A&E, which Brendan Howland has committed to, and I want to commit to achieving over the next 5 years. So it's not just pointing at the problem, it's actually finding solutions.
Okay, now, Tommy Bruin, you're going to respond to that, and then you're going to tell me what your red line issue is.
Well, I'm responding to it because I think we've had a number of meetings, several meetings with the Chief Executive, Liam Duffy, with the Clinical Director of Beaumont. There's been our Beaumont senior staff have for several years been working on a major new A&E for Beaumont Hospital. This government, Ian's government, had a very small sum in global terms to put into budget 2016, and you didn't do it. And I chased Mr. Bradker and before him Mr. Riley to do this, and I presume colleagues did the same, and they simply didn't do it.
Now, please, what is your red line issue? What is the price that you will sell your support for to any next government?
Well, I just want to say, first of all, the interesting thing about the poll yesterday is that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael together are just making 45%. Do you remember, Philip, when they would be at 70%, they'd be 80%. Together, they're less than if like a 50% situation. I personally believe that independence, left of centre independence, I'm a right to change independent, that we should take a leading role in the government.
What's your one issue? You're going to be allowed one hobby horse.
Yeah.
What is it going to
have an independent Taoiseach?
Tommy Bruin.
Yeah.
What's your one issue?
I think we should declare a national housing emergency in this city. We were just taking a break at earlier on in the day. We meet people constantly who are homeless. It's utterly disgusting and disgraceful that we have 1,700 kids tonight sleeping in hotels, maybe sleeping in the backs of cars and so on. I mean, this is an unbelievable situation in our country that this should be happening to our children. A national housing emergency. I agree with Finian. We need to move big time on health. The health service themselves told us they needed at least another 2 billion, but Mr. Howell and Mr. Noonan just simply wouldn't give them the money.
All right. No. Hang on. I'm going to move it on here. I want to bring Terence Flanagan in here. If an abortion referendum is on the agenda in the next programme, the programme for government of the next government, are you going to be in or out of that government?
Well, firstly, I'd say my position is very clear. I am a pro-life politician. I had to leave Fine Gael, obviously. They didn't provide for a free vote on the issue of conscience at the time. I'm glad to see that they are going to provide a free vote in the future.
Is it going to be an obstacle to Renewa going into government?
It's not, no, because Renewa, we basically have an open position in our party. We have no three-line whip on issues of social conscience. It's up to each individual to decide where they stand.
But you will be negotiating a programme for government. Is this something that you would rather see in or out?
I'd rather, it's up to the people. Listen, I'm a Democrat. I'll let people decide.
No, it's up to you in the party to decide what your programme for government was going to be.
Well, it's up to people to speak ultimately as to what they want and what they don't want. My position remains very clear, and if there is a referendum, I'll be personally voting against it.
All right. Micheál McDonagh, the pro-life campaign asked you, as well as every other candidate in the constituency, to set out their position on the 8th Amendment. You didn't respond. What is your position?
Well, that's not correct. I did respond, and I am in favour of repealing the 8th Amendment, as is Sinn Féin. And in fact, the campaign has made that clear.
You'd want to tell the pro-life campaign's website?
Well, I'm not interested in that. I think there is an emerging consensus among the public and across, to a certain extent, across the political spectrum, that the 8th Amendment should be repealed. And I would work with others in politics and in civic society on that course, which I think should be taken. But to get back to the earlier question, we didn't really tease out the issue of what are the choices in this constituency. And
No, because there hasn't. No, hang on a second. And I am going to come back to wider issues, but I have clearly moved the debate on. Sorry, Micheál, if we all speak at the same time, nobody gets heard. We haven't had a substantive abortion debate yet during this campaign. That's what I'm trying to do here now. Sean Haughey, there's huge anguish in Fianna Fáil over this issue. I looked through your entire manifesto this morning. I couldn't find the words, doing a word search, 8th Amendment, repeal or abortion anywhere. You just don't want to take out a position on this, do you?
Well, I think it's a very personal issue for many people. It's a complex issue as well, and it certainly is being debated at this point in time. Fianna Fáil will allow a free vote on the issues as they emerge. They allowed a free vote on the protection of life during pregnancy bill and any other issues that emerge in the future.
But that's not the question. The question is, if it's in a programme for government, are you in or out of that government?
Well, I think as I say, it's a very complex issue. My own view is that the 8th Amendment is there. I would be fearful.
If the 8th Amendment is there, we know that. Are you in or out of that government if a repeal referendum is in the programme for government?
I think the programme for government will happen. We don't know. It's a very hypothetical situation. But whatever, if a referendum takes place, if that's in the programme for government, I will certainly campaign against it. And I think we should have a free vote on the issue. I think it's a deeply personal, moral issue. I have my own personal reasons for opposing the repeal of the 8th Amendment, and I think everybody's view in that regard should be respected.
Finian McGrath, where are you on this?
Well, I strongly support the repeal the 8th Amendment campaign, but I also would agree with Sean there. It's a very personal issue for people, and as an independent we have lots of different views on that particular issue. But I also think it's important for politicians to show leadership. I would also have met over the last number of years families who have the issue of fetal abnormalities, and I would be on their side, and also in relation to rape and incest cases as well.
And what about teenage pregnancy?
Yes, I would be strongly on the
unwanted teenage pregnancy. You'd be happy that an abortion referendum would go that far to allow to legislate for unwanted pregnancies to be terminated?
I think that the question of choice for families and parents in relation to teenage pregnancy is their business, not my business, and I would go with their wishes.
Éoin O'Riordan?
Well, first of all, I think it's bizarre we're having a discussion about the 8th Amendment without one woman present. And secondly, the Labour Party position on this is very, very clear. We will have a referendum in the first 18 months of government. It will be to repeal the 8th Amendment, and we've already published legislation which we feel would be proper to replace the 8th Amendment in the event of it being repealed. But I would say this much, I would agree with Micheál on this much, in that when it comes to having the referendum, it's important that political voices who are in support of repealing the 8th Amendment will come together in order to win that campaign.
The Taoiseach set out his position this morning that it is something that's going to go to the Constitutional Convention, and he's going to seek consensus from that before anything would be decided upon. Is that something that Labour can happily sit in government with Fine Gael on? Surely you just want to put a referendum on a ballot paper and get on with it.
Well, you couldn't find the Fine Gael in favour of marriage equality 5 years ago, and now they're doing laps of honour around the country saying have they delivered for the people. You couldn't find a Fine Gael 5 years ago who was in favour of legislating for the X case. So I'm quite sure we'll get our way with this one as well.
Nisha and Murray, Fine Gael, will they?
Will they what?
Get their way.
Well, and Kenny's been very clear. First of all, he said a constitutional convention within 6 months on the issue, and then a debate in the Dáil and an open vote on the issue itself. That's what Enda has put. That's what he has put on the table.
That's a very sophisticated way of putting it on a shelf, really, isn't it? That you're relying upon the Constitutional Convention, dozens and dozens of people, to come up with a consensus opinion before you put that into legislation?
It's a very sensitive issue. It's a very difficult issue for people to deal with. So I think we need to have that discussion, and the Constitutional Convention is one way of doing that.
Micheál McDonagh, what do you think?
Well, as I've stated, I think the 8th Amendment should be repealed. I would support that.
What do you think of a Constitutional Convention as a mechanism for achieving consensus?
I think kicking the ball into touch. I think the discussion has been had. I think we now need to tackle the issue seriously. I think this is a ruse by the Taoiseach and by Fine Gael during the election campaign to kick the can.
Micheál said,
down the road.
I don't think Micheál said there's a political consensus, an emerging political consensus on this issue. I don't think that's the case. There's a bit of a media consensus, I think, on the issue in terms of movement, but there's no political consensus. There are many different views on the issue, and it's a personal issue for many people and a difficult issue for many, and we need to be aware of that. So the Constitutional Convention is one way of dealing with that.
I want to say I strongly disagree with that. I think actually on these particular issues, the public and the people are way ahead of a lot of the politicians here today, for example. And when you're elected, if you have the honour and privilege to get elected, you should show leadership in relation to those particular issues. And as far as I'm concerned, the people are miles ahead of people on these particular issues.
Welcome to the campaign, Finian.
What do you mean? Sorry, what do you mean?
Aon, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, look, I think my position on these issues have been very consistent over a period of time. I think other people around this circle, I think, have changed their position.
Who?
Well, I remember a number of years ago going to doors, and it's quite clear to me that the position that the Labour Party had in terms of this area, which is a sensitive area, was being manipulated on doorsteps. But look, I think now, it's remarkable when a campaign becomes politically popular, that people change their positions. So in terms of the social,
have you changed your position, Finian?
No, that's the Aon is just, I don't know where he's coming from. I've always supported and been very strong of support of equality issues, and I never told lies and misled people in tape recording interviews as well, hidden tape recorders as well in his office as well. So that's what I'm making. I've always been very.
Let's stick to one slur at a time, will we?
I've
always been straight with the people. The only difference between myself and I do honest politics the hard.
One voice. Aon.
Finian trying to play both sides there, which is what I'm used to from Finian in terms of his type of politics. Look, at the last number of years, what we have tried to do, not just to build an economic recovery in this country, but to have a progressive view of how this country could go forward. You couldn't find many people in the political spectrum who believed that marriage equality, for example, was a topic or a conversation this country needed to have. We drove that conversation, delighted that the people supported that. We will do it again. You will not get this question asked in a referendum unless Labour are in government.
And just out of interest, no, sorry, Finian, hang on a second.
Another thing privately.
Just out of interest, Tommy Brewin, are you getting canvassed on this particular issue on the doorsteps? How live is it?
No, I would say it's something that I haven't. I mean, you do tend to get, obviously, emails and the odd phone call from people, both, if you like, are pro-life and people are pro-choice and so on. But, I mean, on the doorstep, I think Again, it's health, housing, disability issues. It's those kind of issues that people are concerned about. I mean, Ian was saying there in terms of the equality referendum, and obviously it was a very positive step for the country. But I mean, maybe, I don't know, just the mood of the country from long before it, whatever party was in favour, I think people felt that it was an equality issue and it should be dealt with. But there are equality issues, like in relation to disability, for example, the sections of the disability bill which this government refused to sign because it meant that every
I wonder more generally, and is the one word answer from all of you, do people actually want to talk on the doorsteps in the depths of winter?
Yes,
they do. Yes, they do.
So there's no support here for my campaign to abolish winter elections.
Actually, I support that. I want to say, Philip, I strongly support that because all my election workers are frozen every night.
Unanimity on that one there. All right, look, folks, thank you very much. You have been listening to Independent TD Tommy Bruin, Terence Flanagan TD from Renua, Fianna Fáil's Sean Haughey, Sinn Féin's Micheál McDonagh, Independent TD Finian McGrath, Fine Gael's Nisha O'Murray, running in Dublin Bay North are Éoin O'Riordan of Labour as well.